You wake up exhausted. You drag yourself through the day. You collapse at night. And when someone asks how you are, you say the same thing. I'm tired. But here's what no one tells you. What you're calling tiredness isn't fatigue. It's frequency. You're not running low on sleep. You're running low on life force. And the difference between the two will change everything. Because tiredness can be solved with rest. But low vibration, that requires something else entirely. Think about it. You've had those mornings where you slept 8 hours and still felt like you were wading through concrete. You've had afternoons where no amount of coffee could shake the fog. You've blamed your schedule, your workload, your age. But then suddenly, something shifts. You get good news. You have a conversation that lights you up. You step outside and the sun hits your face just right. And in that moment, the exhaustion vanishes. Not because your body recovered, but because your energy changed. That's frequency. That's vibration. And when yours is low, everything feels heavy. Your body, your thoughts, your life. Low vibration isn't a spiritual buzzword. It's a state of being. It's what happens when you're energetically depleted, emotionally drained, mentally cluttered. It's the accumulation of everything you've been carrying without releasing. The resentment you swallowed, the boundary you didn't set, the version of yourself you've been performing instead of embodying. It all sits in your field like static, slowing you down, dimming your light. And the world doesn't help. You're surrounded by noise, endless notifications, constant demands, people who drain you, environments that suffocate you. You're swimming in low-frequency energy and wondering why you can't stay afloat. You think you need more willpower, more discipline, more caffeine. But what you actually need is to raise your frequency, to remember that you are not just flesh and bone, you are energy. And energy can be shifted. The ancient mystics knew this. The yogis, the shamans, the alchemists, they understood that vitality doesn't come from the outside. It comes from within, from alignment, from coherence, from living in resonance with your true nature. They knew that when your frequency is high, your body becomes light. Your mind becomes clear. Your life becomes effortless. Not because you're forcing anything, but because you're flowing. Modern science is catching up. Quantum physics tells us everything is vibration. Neuroscience shows us that thoughts and emotions create measurable energy fields. Epigenetics proves that your environment and consciousness literally shape your biology. You are not a static being. You are a dynamic, energetic system. And like any system, you need the right input to function optimally. So why are you running on empty? Because you've been living in contradiction. You say you want peace, but you scroll through chaos. You say you want health, but you ignore your body's signals. You say you want growth, but you cling to what's familiar. You're sending mixed signals to the universe, to your nervous system, to your cells, and your energy reflects it. Low vibration feels like this. You wake up already defeated. Everything feels like a chore. Conversations drain you. Sunlight feels too bright. Silence feels too loud. You're irritable for no reason. You're anxious about nothing specific. You're sad without a story to attach it to. You're just heavy. And no matter how much you rest, the weight doesn't lift. Because it's not in your muscles, it's in your field. You see it in your choices. You reach for sugar when you're stressed. You binge shows you don't even enjoy. You say yes when you mean no. You stay in situations that make you small. You tolerate people who dim you. You numb instead of feel. You distract instead of process. You survive instead of live. And with every choice that betrays your truth, your frequency drops a little more. You feel it in your relationships. You attract people who mirror your internal state. If you're carrying resentment, you'll find partners who give you reasons to resent them. If you're vibrating scarcity, you'll surround yourself with people who take more than they give. If you're stuck in victim consciousness, you'll create dynamics where you're always the one suffering. It's not coincidence, it's resonance, like attracts like, and low vibration attracts more of the same. You see it in your reality. Your opportunities dry up, your creativity flatlines, your manifestations stall, not because the universe is punishing you, but because you're not a match for what you're asking for. You can't call in high-frequency experiences from a low-frequency state. It's like trying to tune into a radio station while you're on the wrong channel. The signal is there, but you can't receive it, not until you shift. If this message resonates with you, subscribe to the channel and join a community of awakened souls walking the same journey of spiritual alignment. And here's the paradox. You know you need to change, but you're too tired to do anything about it. You're too depleted to take action. So you stay stuck. You keep waiting for things to get easier, for circumstances to shift, for someone to save you, but no one's coming. Because this isn't something that happens to you. It's something you do, or more accurately, something you allow. Raising your frequency isn't about adding more to your plate. It's about clearing what doesn't belong. It's about subtraction, not addition. Releasing what's weighing you down so your natural state can emerge. Because high vibration is your default. It's what you are when you strip away the conditioning, the trauma, the fear, the noise. You were born as pure energy, and underneath everything you've accumulated, that's still what you are. So how do you raise it? How do you shift from heavy to light, from stuck to flowing, from surviving to thriving? You start by telling the truth to yourself about how you really feel, about what's really draining you, about what you've been tolerating, about the version of yourself you've been pretending to be. You stop performing, you stop people-pleasing, you stop betraying your own knowing, and you let yourself be honest, even if it's ugly, even if it's uncomfortable, because authenticity is high frequency, and every lie you tell yourself drops you lower. You clear your environment. You look at the spaces you inhabit and ask, does this uplift me or drain me? You declutter the physical. You curate the digital. You protect your attention like the sacred resource it is. You stop consuming content that makes you feel worse. You stop following people who trigger your insecurities. You stop engaging in conversations that leave you depleted. You become ruthless about what you allow into your field. Because your energy is your currency, and you've been spending it on things that don't serve you. You tend to your body, not as a machine to be optimized, but as a vessel to be honored. You move in ways that feel good. You eat foods that nourish, not just fill. You hydrate like your life depends on it, because it does. You sleep without guilt. You rest without earning it. You listen to the signals your body has been sending, and finally, you respond. Because your body is not separate from your spirit. It's the home your energy lives in, and when you treat it with reverence, your frequency rises naturally. You transmute emotion. You stop suppressing. You stop numbing. You stop pretending everything is fine when it's not. You let yourself feel anger, grief, fear, disappointment. Not to drown in it, but to move through it, to let it pass through your system like weather. Because emotions are energy in motion, and when you block them, they stagnate, they calcify, they become the weight you carry. But when you allow them, they transform, they alchemize. And on the other side is lightness. You choose your thoughts, not in some toxic positivity bypass kind of way, but with awareness. With intention. You notice the loops you've been running, the stories you've been telling, the identity you've been reinforcing. And you ask, is this true? Is this serving me? Is this who I want to be? And when the answer is no, you choose again, not once, but over and over, until the new thought becomes the default, until the new story becomes your reality. You cultivate presence. You stop living in the past, rehearsing what happened, replaying what you should have said. You stop living in the future, worrying about what might go wrong, trying to control what hasn't arrived. You come back to now, to breathe, to sensation, to this moment, which is the only moment you actually have. Because the present is high frequency. It's where creation happens. It's where peace lives. And every time you return to it, you raise your vibration. You surround yourself with resonance, with people who see you, who celebrate you, who challenge you to grow, who don't need you to be small so they can feel big. You seek out beauty, music that moves you, art that cracks you open, nature that reminds you what you are. You put yourself in environments that elevate you, that remind you of your potential, that reflect back the frequency you're cultivating, because you become what you're surrounded by. And if you're surrounded by low vibration, you'll stay there. You practice gratitude, not as a spiritual bypass, not as a way to ignore what's hard, but as a way to shift your focus, to attune to what's working instead of what's broken. To notice the grace that's already present, the body that carries you, the breath that sustains you, the people who love you, the moments that made you smile, the opportunities that found you. When you train your awareness toward what's good, you create more good. Because energy flows where attention goes, and gratitude is one of the highest frequencies there is. You reclaim your power. You stop blaming circumstances. You stop waiting for permission. You stop outsourcing your happiness to external conditions. You realize that you are the variable, the common denominator, the creator. And while you can't control everything that happens to you, you can control how you respond, how you interpret, how you choose to show up. And that choice, that agency, is where your power lives. When you step into it, your frequency skyrockets, because victimhood is low vibration and sovereignty is high. You connect to something larger. You remember you're not just an isolated body navigating a random world. You're a thread in an infinite web, a note in a cosmic symphony, a drop in an eternal ocean. You plug into source, into spirit, into the intelligence that beats your heart and grows the trees and spins the planets. However you name it, however you access it, through prayer, through meditation, through nature, through silence, you stop trying to do it all alone. And you let yourself be held by something bigger, because separation is what made you tired, and connection is what makes you come alive. And when you do this, when you start to tend to your frequency like the sacred thing it is, everything changes. Not all at once, not overnight, but gradually, undeniably. You start to feel lighter. Like you've been carrying a backpack full of rocks and someone just helped you take it off. You didn't even realize how heavy it was until it wasn't there anymore. Your body responds. The chronic tension in your shoulders releases. The brain fog lifts. The inflammation subsides. You sleep deeper. You wake easier. You move with more ease, not because you're suddenly superhuman, but because you're no longer fighting yourself. You're no longer at war with your own energy. You're in coherence. And in coherence, healing happens naturally. Your relationships transform. The people who were draining you either shift or leave. And you don't mourn them, because you realize they were only there to mirror what you were tolerating. New people arrive, aligned people, people who match your new frequency. Conversations become effortless, connections deepen. You stop performing and start relating. And the loneliness you've been carrying dissolves, not because you're suddenly surrounded by crowds, but because you're finally in relationship with yourself. Your reality responds, opportunities appear, synchronicities multiply. Things that were stuck start moving, not because you're forcing anything, but because you're in flow. You're no longer blocking your own blessings with low-frequency energy. You're a clear channel, and what's meant for you can finally reach you. Money comes easier, creativity flows, manifestations land, not through struggle, but through alignment. You become magnetic, not in some superficial performative way, but in your essence. People feel it when they're around you. They don't know what it is. They just know they feel better in your presence, calmer, lighter, more themselves, because high vibration is contagious. It gives others permission to rise too. You become the person who changes the energy of a room just by walking into it, not through trying, but through being. To celebrate your arrival, we've prepared a gift, a guide to help you navigate your inner transitions with clarity and elegance. Alignment, 7 phases of consciousness awakening. Download your copy from the link in the description. Your purpose clarifies, the fog lifts. You start to see why you're here, what you're meant to contribute, what only you can offer. Not because some grand revelation struck you like lightning, but because when your frequency is high, the noise quiets, and your soul's voice gets louder. You stop living someone else's blueprint, and you start following your own. Not perfectly, not without fear, but with trust. With knowing, with the quiet confidence that comes from alignment. And here's what's wild. You realize you were never actually tired. You were just living out of sync. You were forcing instead of flowing, resisting instead of allowing, contracting instead of expanding. You were trying to run on low-frequency fuel and wondering why you kept stalling out. But now you're tapped into source, into the infinite well of energy that's always been there. And you're not tired anymore. You're alive. This is not about perfection. You will have days where your frequency drops, where the old patterns creep back in, where you feel heavy again. That's not failure, that's being human. The difference is now you know. You know what low vibration feels like. You know what caused it. And you know how to shift. You don't stay stuck. You course correct, you recalibrate, you come back to center, again and again. Not because you're flawed, but because you're committed. This is not about bypassing your humanity, about pretending everything is love and light, about spiritual materialism or toxic positivity or any of that nonsense. This is about reality, about energy, about the fact that you are a vibrational being living in a vibrational universe. And when you align with that truth, everything else falls into place. Your struggles don't disappear, but your relationship to them transforms. You stop being crushed by them, and you start moving through them. With grace, with power, with the knowing that you are so much more than what you've been carrying. So if you're exhausted, if you're dragging, if you're wondering why rest doesn't seem to help, stop calling it tiredness. Call it what it is, low vibration. And then do something about it. Not tomorrow, not when things calm down, not when you have more time or energy or support. Now, with what you have, with where you are, one choice, one shift, one small reclamation of your energy. Clear something that's been draining you. Say no to something that doesn't serve you. Move your body, drink water, step outside. Put on music that makes you feel alive. Call someone who sees you. Write down what you're grateful for. Meditate for 5 minutes. Do anything that raises your frequency even slightly, because that small shift creates momentum, and momentum creates transformation. You are not a victim of your energy, you are its creator, and every moment is an opportunity to choose differently, to rise, to remember, to return to the high-frequency being you've always been underneath the weight of everything else. This is your invitation, not to be perfect, not to transcend your humanness, but to come back to life, to stop dragging, to stop surviving, to start thriving, to raise your frequency and watch your entire reality shift in response. Because you're not tired, you're just low vibration, and that, unlike so much else, is something you can change. If this resonated with you, if you felt the truth of it in your bones, don't just let it pass through. Like this video, subscribe to this channel. Not for the algorithm, not because I'm telling you to, but because choosing to engage with high-frequency content is itself an act of raising your vibration. It's you telling the universe, yes, more of this. It's you committing to your own elevation, and that choice matters more than you know. The Cipher of Inner Stillness is a poetic journey through the hidden geometry of peace. Blending mystical philosophy, Jungian psychology, and cosmic symbolism, this ebook reveals that silence is not the absence of life. It is its source. Discover this and other codices that transform the way you see the universe through the link in the description.